as the hot or resists it as pressed out in it makes a funny
I read just like him. In kindergarten, my parents, sister, and teacher all worried about me. I could not do sight words. My family and I would repeat the list over and over and over. I could not rhyme. I could not balance. I did not know right and left. School was exhausting. First grade brought no improvement. Second grade was worse. I just could not figure out how to read. My parents could take it no longer. I was tested for learning problems at FSU. They confirmed I had a reading disability. We pushed harder. We pushed longer. My third grade teacher took 3 of us out every day for intense reading. The summer after the third grade, I enrolled in the Skank School in Atlanta, a school dedicated to dyslexics. I learned there were hundreds of kids just like me. I learned how to break down words. We worked on memory techniques. It was a very hard summer. My family was separated, and I had to go to school. Nothing about this was going to be easy. Returning to Thomasville, we found the best tutor. Since 4th grade, she has worked with me. We have spent several hundred hours reading and correcting. I still mishear words, misspell words, and struggle to read fluently. It takes me longer to do assignments and to study. I listen to my literature books instead of reading. But my reading, writing, and comprehension has steadily improved.
Dyslexia is a learning disability usually associated with reading. Approximately 20% of the population is dyslexic. It is a common disability among children. There is no cure for dyslexia. There are some steps to help your child be successful. First, address the problem early. Read with your child and work with your child and school. It is important that your child receive emotional support. Assistance from the school is also important. People automatically assume that if a child does not know how to read, that the child is not smart. Children with dyslexia are highly intelligent, but struggle with reading and writing. Their brains are wired differently. They excel in problem solving, reasoning, seeing the big picture, and thinking out of the box. Dyslexia is linked to success. Suspected dyslexics include Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Disney. Most recent faces include Henry Winkler, Cher, George Clooney, Tom Cruise, and Usher.
Oh yes, people are extremely successful. There are many famous people that have dyslexia. And actually there's a high rate of doctors that have dyslexia and LD, learning disabilities. They simply overcome it. Many people of average or above average intelligence have dyslexia, and they can be very successful later in life. They find ways to get around their reading difficulties. It's, as I mentioned before, it's very important to intervene early, and research is showing with brain studies and brain scans that it's important for a lot of phonological awareness, which is helping kids identify the sounds and hear the sounds before they tie it to print, and explicit phonics instruction. Both those combined. There are some programs out there like Linda Mood Bell, the LIPS program, that have found a lot of success in helping children at an early age. Again, I think I've mentioned that the best age to intervene is the younger the better, but often it's not found into adults as they get older, and so it's important, if you can catch it early, to intervene. They say the brain is its most workable stage under the age of 8 or 10, and so the earlier the better. The dropout rate is high for dyslexic children because there's such an emphasis on reading. Reading is such a fundamental skill, and it's such a high frustration because they're unable to break the code and gain the meaning and understanding that everybody else is, so they experience a high rate of frustration. And so much of school is focused on the written word, and whether writing it or reading it and understanding it, that it causes people to drop out of school when they have experienced that frustration. No, I think it's a lot of kids are misidentified or unidentified with dyslexia because it's so hard to diagnose. There are different causes of dyslexia, and people exhibit it in different ways. So it's very difficult for schools to diagnose it because it also requires a medical diagnosis. And so it can be very difficult for children to get the right diagnosis at an early age. Tutoring is extremely important for dyslexic children because they need additional instruction. They say that 40 to 60% of children learn to read no matter what method they're using, and dyslexic children need a very specific targeted instruction, and it includes phonological awareness and phonics. And the earlier that children receive that, the better off that they'll be and more success they'll have with reading later on.
Well, as we continue to learn and grow, we learn different ways to help them. Sometimes that help can come through something as small as a bookmark or a marker to help students track what they're reading. Sometimes it's by covering up half of the sheet of paper. If it's a worksheet, cover up the bottom half, and so that the students are looking at a fewer words on the page. Sometimes it's through the use of an overlay. Sometimes we've learned that different colors affect children differently, and specifically with a certain type of dyslexia that we have, a student has here at Jerger, we use a blue overlay with, and that seems to help keep the letters and the words organized on the paper for them. So we just have to keep trying. We just don't ever give up. We just keep trying to find that special, the special modification or accommodation that child needs to be successful. Finding children with dyslexia is sometimes a long journey. But some of the red flags that we watch for are in the young age, maybe kindergarten, we're looking for rhyming words. Can a student rhyme? If they have serious issues and consistent issues with rhyming, we begin looking. Now, just because you don't rhyme immediately doesn't mean you have dyslexia. It doesn't even mean there's a learning disability, but it's the consistency. We also look for their reading fluency to be hindered. We do have state guidelines and that guide us on how quickly a child should read, and that number changes as you move through the grade levels. But reading fluency can be an indicator along with the rhyming. When you're writing, if there are reversals, that is an indicator. It doesn't mean that if you reverse a letter that you're dyslexic. That's not what it means. But it's through time. When you get to 3rd or 4th grade, your P's or your D's shouldn't be backwards. And so it can oftentimes be a long process, but it's just one that we keep working with and trying to find what helps that child to be successful. Helping parents through this situation, again, it's a journey. It's a hand-in-hand journey with parents and teachers. First of all, we don't ever want to be alarming. We want it to be a positive journey. We want parents to know that this does not keep your child from being successful at school. It will not keep your child from being successful as an adult. It will not keep your child from being a successful parent.
Well, in kindergarten, it's very, we more notice signs because kindergarten is a year of much development. It's a year of progressing, and most oftentimes we do see early signs. So we can't really say or determine that, yes, a child is dyslexic at that point because they're still young and they're still going to change, and things like letter reversals may not necessarily be a sign, but they may be doing them in kindergarten that they could still do till 1st, 2nd grade, but then that child not necessarily be dyslexic. So the signs that I saw in you, Hannah, were letter recognition was difficult. By mid-year, you still had not learned to recognize all of your letters, so that was a sign. Sight words were difficult. Now, sight words are a different level than letters, but the letters itself were developmentally appropriate in kindergarten to be learned. So that was one of the first signs, I think. You were a good student. You worked hard. So I knew that it wasn't a lack of motivation, that there was something else and also I noticed that you were stronger in math. You were learning numbers and things. So then there was, so it kind of leaned towards, there was a sign in reading in your early literacy that I saw. There again, it will be letter recognition. Sometimes children don't pay attention, and so you have to determine if it's an issue of them paying attention and not being able to learn, or they are focusing but they're unable to comprehend that. It may be a matter of they need more repetitions to learn the letter or the sounds. We did do the SRA program then, and you picked up on the sounds, but there again it was the letter recognition. That was one of the first signs. That is not the easiest part of the job, but it's a very important one. Some parents are easier to talk with than others. Sometimes you know the parents a little bit better than you would other parents. In your case, I did. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult, but it's very important to be honest and upfront from the beginning so that there are no surprises. You don't want it to go all year or even unsaid, and then you move on to the next grade and the teacher there noticed it, and that's just not fair to you or to your parents. So the earlier that the parents are told, then the more important it is. And also, even though it may not turn into an issue like dyslexia or a problem, then it's important that they still know to work with them, because sometimes it's the child may need a little bit more help at home. And if that's the case, the parents can do it, but sometimes that's not always the answer either, answering to work more on it. So telling parents is not always the easiest, but it's very, very important. And it's very important that they be told early on, not just at the end of the year. Well, a lot of times in kindergarten, the children that have IEPs, a lot of them don't have the IEPs in kindergarten. That's something that is developed as the reading problem is diagnosed or determined, and then we develop the IEPs usually at an older grade. Sometimes we have children coming in with them, but most often the children in kindergarten do not have an IEP coming in. Now, if we did move in that direction that year and there was a determination that the child was dyslexic, then we would I would help in that process, documenting and dating things and just having facts and information to support what we need to do to help you or the